Every world hides its secrets, and some beings belong to more than one. I am born of two worlds where science meets spirituality and reality collides with imagination. Welcome to the space between worlds. Dark clouds rolled above the battlefield, turning the sky into a boiling sea of smoke and thunder. The air was heavy with the smell of metal and burned soil. Sarah of Valen stood at the center of the ruined plain, her spear trembling in her hands. Around her, the last fighters of her unit were falling, one by one. They had been fighting for 3 days against the Kroth, creatures made of bone armor and black mist. Sarah's people were brave, but courage did not stop energy blades. Her commander had already fallen, and the Kroth were closing in like wolves smelling blood. "Hold the line," she shouted, but her voice was swallowed by the roar of battle. She knew it was hopeless. They were encircled. The enemy's drones circled overhead, scanning for survivors. Her spear, a symbol of her order, was cracked at the shaft. Her armor was cut in 3 places, and her left arm shook from fatigue. Still, she did not run. The signal far away, hidden among broken towers, a small device blinked red. It was an ancient emergency beacon buried under the dust of forgotten wars. No one remembered placing it there, until now. Sarah fell to her knees, pressing her hand against her helmet's comlink. "Base, this is Sarah of Valen Squad 4. We are encircled. Coordinates Delta 9. We need extraction." Only static answered. The communication relay had fallen hours ago. A Kroth blade scraped the ground beside her. Sarah rolled aside just in time, her spear meeting the creature's jaw in a bright flash of blue light. It screamed, a horrible sound like metal grinding against stone. But as she pulled her spear back, it finally broke. The tip snapped off, flying into the mud. Her heart dropped. The Kroth laughed, a dry, cracking sound. It raised its claw to end her life, then something changed. A new sound rose through the storm, not the whine of a Kroth engine, not the crash of thunder. It was a high, sharp whistle falling from the sky like a comet. Every head turned upward. Even the Kroth paused. A light tore through the clouds, a bright trail of fire cutting the sky open. It hit the ground with a thunderclap, throwing mud and bodies into the air. Sarah covered her face from the blast. When she looked again, a crater smoked before her, and in its center a figure stood. The fallen one, the figure was human, at least mostly. He was tall, wearing a dark suit of metal and fiber, scorched by entry fire. His helmet was smooth, with a blue visor that glowed faintly. He lifted his head slowly, as if waking from a long sleep. The Kroth growled and moved toward him. Sarah backed away, confused. No one had ever fallen from the sky, at least not alive. The man spoke through a helmet speaker, his voice calm and cold. "Mind if I enter the fight?" Before Sarah could answer, he moved, faster than anything she had seen. He crossed the field in a blink, his fist smashing through the Kroth's armor like glass. Blue mist burst out of its body, and it collapsed. The other creatures screamed and rushed at him, but he moved like a storm, his arms glowing with light and motion. Every strike was perfect, every move precise. Sarah watched in shock as the impossible happened. The Kroth were falling back. In minutes, the field was silent again, the dark clouds spinning slowly above the ruins. The man stood in the mud, his breath steady. The blue light on his helmet dimmed. Sarah approached carefully, her broken spear still in her hand. "Who are you?" she asked. The man turned to her. For a moment he did not answer. Then he removed his helmet. Under it was a human face, pale skin, short dark hair, and eyes that looked like they had seen too many wars. "My name is Elias," he said. "I heard your call." Sarah blinked. "That's not possible. The comlinks were dead." He looked up at the storming sky. "Not for me." Before she could ask more, a low rumble echoed through the valley. The ground shook. Far away, the mountains glowed with orange light. Thousands of Kroth were coming, an entire horde. Sarah's heart sank again. They had survived the first wave, but this was the end. Elias studied the horizon. Then he said quietly, "Good. I was hoping for a real fight." The rising storm Sarah did not understand him. He was smiling as if the idea of facing thousands did not scare him at all. He looked up at the sky, tapped something on his wrist, and the air around him shifted. A low hum filled the field. Then something massive appeared overhead, a shadow breaking through the clouds. It was a ship, sleek and dark, hovering in silence. "Is that Sarah whispered. "Not exactly," Elias replied. "It's a long story." The Croth screams grew louder. Elias looked at her again. "Stay close, if you want to live." And then the sky exploded again, with light, fire, and the sound of a human war machine awakening after centuries of sleep. The battle for Valen was just beginning. The storm grew louder. The wind screamed across the ruins of Valen, carrying dust and ash like ghostly hands. Sarah looked up at the dark ship floating above them. It was silent, too smooth and sharp to be built by her people. Elias stood still, watching the approaching army of Croth. His expression didn't change. It was as if he had seen this kind of death 100 times before. Sarah wanted to speak, but her throat was dry. You fell from the sky," she said. "Who are you really?" Elias didn't answer. He touched a panel on his wrist. Blue lights ran down his armor like veins waking up. The ship above hummed in reply. "They'll reach us in 3 minutes," he said quietly. "You should find cover." Sarah hesitated. "I'm not leaving my people." Elias turned his head slightly toward her. "Your people are gone," he said. His voice was not cruel, just honest. "But if you want revenge, stay close." The enemy returns. The first line of Croth soldiers appeared over the ridge, tall, armored, moving like shadows, hundreds of them. Behind them, huge shapes crawled from the mountains, machines that looked half living, half metal, their eyes glowing red. Sarah had seen many battles, but never this. Her heart pounded. She felt small, almost useless, beside this strange man who fell from the sky. Then Elias raised his right arm. The blue lights on his armor flared and the air rippled around him. "Let's wake her up," he whispered. The dark ship responded instantly. Panels on its sides opened and dozens of drones shot out, sleek, sharp, and fast. They formed a circle above Elias, each one glowing with cold white light. The Croth stopped for a moment, confused. Then, as one, they roared and charged. The storm of fire, the ground shook. Energy bolts flew through the air, turning night into bright flashes of blue and orange. Sarah ducked behind a broken wall, shielding her eyes from the explosions. Elias walked forward into the storm. His drones flew around him in perfect rhythm, firing with deadly precision. Every blast found a target. Every Croth that came close was cut down by energy blades extending from Elias's arms. Sarah watched in disbelief. He wasn't just fighting, he was controlling the entire battle, every drone moving like an extension of his own body. She picked up a fallen weapon, a plasma rifle from one of her dead soldiers, and joined the fight. Even if she couldn't match him, she refused to stand idle. The Croth tried to overwhelm them with numbers, but every time they got close, Elias met them head-on. His strikes were heavy but graceful. He never wasted a move. Sarah's rifle overheated, but she kept firing. Her armor was cracked, her hands bleeding, yet something inside her had changed. For the first time in years, she felt hope. After the battle, the last Croth screamed and fell. Silence returned to the valley, broken only by the hum of Elias's drones returning to his ship. Smoke rose from the burning wrecks. Sarah dropped her weapon, breathing hard. That was impossible. Elias deactivated his armor lights. "No," he said softly, "just forgotten." She frowned. "Forgotten? What does that mean?" He looked at her with tired eyes. "Your world, Valen, it used to be part of something bigger. A long time ago, humans built cities among the stars. We fought wars like this before. I was part of one." Sarah shook her head. "That can't be true. Humans, you mean we?" "No," Elias interrupted. "Not like you, not anymore." His voice carried a strange sadness, something older than memory. The warning before Sarah could ask more. A loud beep came from his wrist. Elias glanced down, his expression darkened. "They're not done," he said. "That was only a scouting force." "What?" Sarah gasped. "That was a scout." Elias nodded. "The main fleet is coming and they know I'm here." He turned toward the sky. The clouds were shifting again, but this time not from weather. Giant shapes were descending from orbit, massive Croth carriers, their hulls glowing with red symbols. Sarah's heart sank. "There's no way to fight that." Elias raised a hand. "There is, but not here." He pressed a button and a hatch opened in his ship. Inside, the light was warm and strange, like stepping into another world. "Come with me," he said. "If you want to save what's left of Valen, you'll need to see the truth." Sarah hesitated. Her instincts screamed not to trust him, but something in his tone, a quiet certainty, made her follow. As they stepped into the ship, the door closed, sealing out the burning battlefield behind them. The awakening inside the ship was alive. Walls pulsed with soft light. Machines floated silently. Sarah could feel a hum beneath her feet like the heart of a sleeping beast. Elias walked to a console and placed his hand on it. The ship responded immediately. Screens lit up, showing maps of stars, fleets, and data streams. Sarah stared at them in wonder. What is all this?" she whispered. Elias looked at her. "This," he said, "is the last ship of the human vanguard. I was supposed to protect your world 1,000 years ago." Sarah's eyes widened. 1,000, he nodded. "We failed once. I don't plan to fail again." The ship rumbled as it lifted into the storm. Outside, the first beams of light from the enemy ships began to fall toward Valen. Sarah gripped her broken spear tightly, and in that moment she realized this was not the end of their story. It was the beginning of humanity's return. The ship moved through the storm like a silent ghost. Outside, lightning flashed against the hull, but inside it was calm. The air was cool, filled with a faint humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere. Sarah sat quietly near the console, still holding her broken spear. Every time she looked at Elias, she felt more questions building inside her. Finally, she spoke. "You said you were supposed to protect my world. 1,000 years ago. How is that possible?" Elias didn't answer at first. His eyes were fixed on the screens, lines of data, ancient maps, and strange codes flashing across them. Then he said slowly, "Because I was never supposed to wake up." The long sleep. He turned toward her. His armor was partly open now, showing deep scars on his chest, some old, some new. "When the war began, humanity had already lost most of its colonies. The Croth came from beyond our charts. We tried to fight, but we were not ready." Sarah listened, barely breathing. "Our last command," Elias continued, "was to seal the remaining worlds, hide the sleepers, and wait for a signal, a desperate call that would mean the fight wasn't over." He looked at her. "Your signal woke me." Sarah frowned. "But we didn't know about you. Our people don't even remember this war." He nodded. "That's because someone erased it." She stared at him, confused. "Erased it? How can you erase a war?" "Not the war," he said softly. "The truth." The truth hidden in the stars. The main screen changed, showing a star map. Dozens of red marks glowed across the void, lost colonies, destroyed systems. At the center was a single blue point. "Valen," Elias said, "your world, the last beacon." Sarah looked closer. "Then we're the last humans." He smiled faintly. "You're what's left of us. Changed, adapted, surviving in the dark. But your blood, it's still human." Sarah's heart raced. For her whole life she had believed the legends, that her people were made by the gods of the storm, shaped from the ashes of the old world. Now, sitting inside a ship that hummed like a living heart, she began to doubt everything. "If we were human once," she said slowly, "then what are the Croth?" Elias's eyes darkened. "Our mistake." The enemy within. He walked toward a sealed door at the back of the room. It opened with a hiss, revealing a chamber filled with glowing cylinders, each one holding something inside. Sarah stepped closer and gasped. They were human forms, some complete, some half metal, half flesh, sleeping, waiting. Elias placed his hand on one of the glass tubes. "We created the Croth," he said quietly. "They were machines first, helpers, soldiers, healers. But when the war came, they evolved faster than we could control. They became something else, something hungry." Sarah felt cold all over. So you made the monsters that destroyed us. He nodded slowly. And now they're coming to finish what we started. For a long moment neither spoke. The hum of the ship was the only sound. Then Sarah said, if that's true, then what can we do? Elias turned toward her. We do what humans always did when the universe tried to erase them. His eyes burned with quiet fire. We fight back. A new alliance. The ship shuddered as it broke through the upper atmosphere. Below them, Valen burned, cities in flames, Croth carriers dropping soldiers like black rain. Sarah felt a knot tighten in her chest. Elias opened a side panel and pulled out a weapon, a long rifle made of light and metal, its surface humming with hidden power. He handed it to her. This belonged to one of my squad, he said. You'll learn fast. Sarah hesitated. The weapon was heavy, alive with energy. Why me? He looked at her seriously. Because you didn't run when everyone else did. A small smile touched her lips. That's not bravery, that's stubbornness. Same thing, he replied. The shadow signal. Suddenly the ship's alarms blared. Red lights flashed along the walls. Elias turned back to the controls. They've locked onto us. Sarah looked at the radar. Dozens of Croth ships were rising from the surface, chasing them. Can we escape? She asked. Elias's voice was calm. Escape? No, but we can distract them. He touched a command key. The ship's underbelly opened, releasing a swarm of shining orbs. They exploded in the sky, forming a shield of light that confused the enemy sensors. Hang on, he said. The ship tilted sharply. Sarah fell against the wall as they shot through the clouds, weaving between enemy fire. Bolts of red plasma streaked past the windows. Through the chaos, Elias smiled faintly. Feels like old times. Sarah didn't smile. You're enjoying this? Maybe a little. The message then. Something unexpected happened. One of the ship's screens flickered, showing a signal weak but human. Sarah pointed. What's that? Elias frowned. Impossible. No human beacon should still be active. The voice came through the static. This is Outpost Ardent. To any Vanguard units, we are still alive. Sarah's eyes widened. There are others. Elias looked at the signal's coordinates far beyond the known systems across a dark region of space. Maybe, he said, or maybe it's a trap. She stood beside him. Then what will you do? He smiled just a little. The same thing humans always do. He reached for the controls and the stars stretched before them like a silver river. We answer the call. Ending scene. Hook outside. Valen faded into darkness. The human ship vanished into the deep black of space, chased by the red glow of the Croth fleet. Sarah looked out the window one last time, whispering to herself, whatever happens next, we won't be forgotten again. The stars blinked back like ancient eyes watching their return. Stars drifted past like silent embers in the dark. The ship, once asleep for 1,000 years, moved through the blackness faster than light. Sarah stood near the window, watching streaks of silver fire stretch across space. She had never seen the universe like this. Her whole life had been sky, stone, and storms. Now she was traveling between stars with a man who claimed to come from another age. Behind her, Elias worked quietly at the control panel. His hands moved with confidence, even though some of the systems sparked and flickered. This ship wasn't meant to fly again, he said. Then why are we flying it? Sarah asked. Because we don't have a choice. The coordinates on the main screen, a blue symbol, blinked slowly. A location far beyond any chart Sarah had seen. Outpost Ardent, Elias said. If that signal is real, it's the last working base of the human vanguard. Sarah frowned. And if it's not real, then someone wants me dead, he answered simply. He pressed a button and leaned back in the pilot's chair. Either way, we'll find out. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy, filled with questions they were both afraid to ask. Finally, Sarah said softly, Elias, were you human before the war? He looked at her. I still am. But you don't age, you fight like a machine. He smiled faintly. That's because I am one partly. I was the first of the Vanguard to undergo the fusion process. Flesh and code, mind and armor, I volunteered. Why? She asked. Because someone had to. Ghosts in the dark. Hours later, the ship entered a region of space that looked dead. No stars, no light, just black dust and drifting metal. Sarah shivered. What is this place? The grave belt, Elias said. The ruins of old battles. Every ship that fought here never left. As they moved forward, shapes appeared: broken ships, floating bodies, shattered satellites. Some were alien, some human. Suddenly, the radar beeped. Movement, Sarah said. Ahead. Elias tightened his grip on the controls. That shouldn't be possible. Nothing lives here. A dark silhouette appeared in the distance, a massive structure built into a hollow asteroid. Faint lights glowed along its surface, blinking like the eyes of something waking from sleep. That's Ardent, Elias whispered, still breathing. The landing. They approached slowly. The ship's scanners showed weak energy fields but no weapons. A docking gate opened, almost welcoming them. Elias guided the ship inside. The hangar was filled with dust and silence. Machines stood frozen in place, covered in webs of light frost. As the engines powered down, Sarah felt her heart race. Are you sure this is safe? No, Elias replied. But safety's a luxury we lost a long time ago. They stepped out. Their boots echoed on metal floors that hadn't felt footsteps in centuries. The air smelled of rust and cold. Elias switched on a small light from his suit. Stay close. If anything moves, shoot first. They passed old banners, torn and faded. The emblem on them was a human hand holding a burning star. Sarah touched it gently. This was your symbol. He nodded. Hope through fire. The survivor. They reached the command center. It was half destroyed, screens cracked, wires hanging like vines. Elias went to the main console and tried to reactivate it. Suddenly, a light flickered. A faint hologram appeared, a human figure, face blurred with static. Vanguard Unit 01, the voice said weakly. Elias Gray, you are late. Sarah stepped back in shock. It's talking to you. Elias's face hardened. Identify yourself. The hologram stabilized. It was an older woman with silver hair and a scar across her face. Commander Vara. I left this recording for whoever survived. If you are seeing this, the Kroth found us. We fought until the last man. Ardent is lost. The image shook, glitched, and then the voice dropped lower. But there is still hope. We hid something, the core of Eden. If it falls into Kroth hands, humanity dies for good. Then the hologram went dark. Sarah swallowed. The core of Eden, what is that? Elias's voice was a whisper. The heart of the old world, the first AI that guided humanity through the stars. He turned to her, eyes sharp, and now it's somewhere on the station. The search. They split up. Sarah moved through narrow corridors, light trembling in her hand. The walls were carved with words in a language she couldn't read. Every sound made her flinch, the creak of metal, the hiss of air vents. Once, she thought she heard footsteps behind her, but when she turned, nothing was there. In another hall, Elias opened a vault door and found rows of data cores, each one blinking faintly, as if trying to remember the past. He touched one, and an image of Earth appeared for a moment, green, blue, alive. Then it vanished. They forgot us, he muttered. But we're still here. The awakening Sarah entered a wide chamber filled with strange machines. At the center stood a sphere of light. Floating above the floor, it pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Elias, she called, I think I found something. He arrived within seconds. When he saw the sphere, he froze. That's it, he whispered, the core of Eden. The sphere brightened, sensing his presence. A soft voice filled the room, a woman's voice, calm and ancient. Vanguard Unit 01, authorization detected. Welcome back, Elias Gray. Sarah stared in awe. It's alive. Yes, Elias said, and if it remembers everything, it might save us. The voice continued, warning, Kroth fleet inbound, estimated arrival 17 minutes. Sarah's eyes widened. They followed us. Elias clenched his fists. Then we finished this fast. He looked at her and smiled faintly. Ready for round 2? Sarah nodded, gripping her new weapon. Let's show them what humans do when cornered. cliffhanger ending the alarms blared outside. The stars filled with red lights, enemy ships swarming toward the outpost. Inside, the ancient human station began to wake, lights pulsing through every corridor like veins of fire. Elias raised his rifle. Ardent was lost once, he said, not again. And as the first explosion rocked the walls, the human war machine roared back to life. The outpost shook violently. Red lights flashed through the corridors, and alarms screamed like voices from a nightmare. Sarah gripped her weapon tight, trying to stay on her feet as the floor trembled beneath her. "They've surrounded us," she shouted over the noise. Elias stood beside the glowing core. His expression stayed calm, but his eyes burned with focus. "Then we hold them here," he said. "Eden, activate defense grid." The sphere of light pulsed brighter. The AI's voice echoed softly, almost too calm for the chaos around them. "Defense systems offline. Power cells are below operational level." Elias cursed under his breath. "Of course they are." Sarah looked around. "Can we fix it?" "Yes," Elias said, already moving toward a console. "But it's not easy. Someone has to reach the lower generator, manual restart." He glanced at her. "That someone is you." Sarah blinked. "Me. You've got faster access through the maintenance tunnels," Elias said. "I'll hold them here. Go." For a moment she hesitated. "What about you?" He smiled faintly. "Don't worry, I've done this before." Then the wall exploded. The first wave of Croth breach pod tore through the corridor, spraying metal and fire. 3 armored figures crawled out, their eyes glowing red through the smoke. They screeched and charged. Elias moved like lightning. His arm transformed, glowing with blue plasma. He swung once. The first Croth split apart in a burst of sparks. He kicked the second across the room, then shot the third through the chest. "Go!" He shouted again. Sarah ran. The hallway was shaking, lights flickering. She ducked through narrow tunnels filled with old wires and pipes. Every sound echoed too loudly. Somewhere above her she could hear the battle continuing, the crash of metal, the roar of energy fire. She whispered to herself, "Don't stop, don't think, just move." The heart of the station, after minutes of crawling and climbing, she reached a huge circular room. A massive generator stood at its center, cold and silent. She pulled a lever on the side panel. Nothing. The power lines were dead. "Elias," she called into her comlink. "I'm here, but it's not responding." Static crackled for a moment, then his voice came through, strained. "Manual override. There's a power valve near the main conduit. Use it." Sarah found the valve, but it was jammed. She tried to twist it open, but it wouldn't move. "Come on," she muttered. "Please." She pushed harder, the metal cutting into her palm. Finally, with a loud snap, the valve turned, and light flooded the room. The generator roared to life. Sparks shot through the walls as blue energy ran through the cables like veins coming alive. "Elias," she shouted, "power's back." No reply. The silence, the calm line hissed, but there was no voice on the other side. Sarah froze. "Elias," she tried again. "Elias, do you hear me?" Nothing. Her heart began to pound. She turned and ran back toward the upper level. The tunnels were shaking harder now, dust falling from the ceiling, flames in the distance. When she reached the main chamber, she stopped dead. The floor was covered with bodies, Croth drones torn apart, sparks flying from their armor. In the center of it all stood Elias, half his suit burned away, still fighting. His movements were slower now, his breathing heavy. "Elias!" Sarah screamed. He looked up just in time to block another blow. The Croth slammed him backward into a wall. His armor cracked. Sarah raised her weapon and fired, hitting the creature in the chest. It collapsed in smoke. She ran to him, pulling at his arm. "We have to leave," but Elias shook his head. "Not yet, Eden's awake." The voice of Eden, the AI's light filled the chamber, growing brighter until the whole room glowed gold. "Defense grid reactivated," the voice said. "Target acquisition hostile." Energy shields formed across the walls. Automated turrets rose from the floor, firing beams of blue light. The Croth army outside screamed as the outpost came alive again. Sarah stared in shock. "It's working." Elias smiled weakly. Told you, then he stumbled. She caught him as he fell to one knee. Hey, stay with me. He looked at her with tired eyes. Sarah, if this station falls, the core must survive. Promise me you'll protect it. She shook her head fiercely. No, we fight together. The AI interrupted. Warning, enemy reinforcement approaching. Multiple capital-class vessels inbound. Elias's eyes widened. They brought warships. They're going to destroy the entire outpost. Sarah turned to the core. Can't we run? Escape route available, said Eden, but activation requires human authorization. Elias tried to stand. You'll have to finish it for me. My code's incomplete. She hesitated. I don't even understand this technology. Doesn't matter, Elias said, placing her hand over the glowing console. Just believe it will work. The choice, the core recognized her touch. Its light wrapped around her hand, scanning her DNA. New human signature detected, the AI said. Compatibility 96%. Welcome, Sarah Valen. Her breath caught. It knows my name. Now listen, Elias said. You'll guide Eden to safety. I'll stay here and hold them off. No, Sarah shouted. You can't, but the floor shook violently again. The Kroth warships had started bombardment. The ceiling cracked, debris raining down. Elias pushed her toward the escape lift. Go, that's an order. Tears filled her eyes. You said you wouldn't fail again. He smiled, blood at the corner of his mouth. I won't. You will carry us forward. The lift doors closed before she could say another word. The fall of Ardent as the lift rose. Sarah looked through the glass as the outpost burned below. Elias stood surrounded by light, the core's defenses blazing around him. Kroth ships broke through the shields, firing one last barrage. The explosion was blinding. Then silence. The lift reached orbit. The AI's voice whispered softly beside her. Outpost Ardent destroyed. Elias Gray terminated. Sarah covered her face, her heart breaking. No, he can't be gone. But even as tears ran down her cheeks, the stars stretched ahead of her. Where now? She whispered. The AI answered gently. To where humanity's last hope sleeps, we will find Eden's seed. Sarah wiped her eyes, looked into the dark, and said quietly, then let's finish what he started. The ship vanished into the stars. Space was silent again. Only the hum of the small escape ship filled the air. Sarah sat in the pilot's seat, staring at the empty darkness where Outpost Ardent had been. A part of her still hoped to hear Elias's voice on the comms. One last order, one more joke, but there was only static. Eden, she whispered, are you sure he's gone? The soft, calm voice answered, confirmed. Vanguard Unit 01 signal terminated, but his last data imprint remains inside me. Sarah looked up. You mean part of him is still alive? In a way, Eden said. Fragments of his neural code merged with my systems during activation. His memories may assist us. Sarah closed her eyes. Then don't let them fade, he earned that much. A new destination, a blue light appeared on the console, new coordinates glowing like a pulse. What is that? She asked. The location of Eden's seed, the AI replied. A planet once used to hide human genetic archives. If it survived, we can rebuild. Sarah nodded slowly. Then let's go. The ship's engines powered up, streaking across the stars. Sarah felt a strange energy inside her, not just grief, but determination. She looked at the endless black ahead. Elias, I'll finish what you started, I swear it. The journey through Shadow's days blurred into each other. The ship glided through forgotten regions of space, passing broken satellites and the remains of old battles. Sarah spent hours listening to Eden's voice. The AI spoke softly about the past, about the first cities on Mars, the colonization fleets, the fall of Earth. Sometimes it replayed echoes of Elias's memories, his laughter, his orders, his calm voice before battle. It was like traveling with a ghost who refused to be forgotten. At night, when she tried to sleep, Sarah dreamed of blue light and fire, Elias standing beneath a sky of burning stars, whispering, "Don't let them win." Arrival at Eden's seed, approaching destination, said Eden. Sarah opened her eyes. Outside, a planet filled the window, green and gold. Wrapped in thick clouds, it looked alive. After all this time, she breathed, it's beautiful. The AI scanned the surface. Biosigns detected, human-compatible atmosphere, no Croth signals. She smiled faintly. Then maybe, just maybe, we're not too late. The ship entered the atmosphere, shaking as flames wrapped around the hull. Clouds parted, revealing vast forests, silver lakes, and mountains that glowed faintly under twin suns. They landed in a valley filled with ruins, ancient towers covered in vines. Sarah stepped out, feeling real air for the first time in weeks. It smelled clean, fresh, like new beginnings. The garden of metal and stone, the ruins stretched far. Machines half buried in moss hummed faintly, still alive after centuries. Eden, Sarah said, what is this place? This was the Genesis Vault, the AI replied. Humanity's final seed world, designed to awaken only if every other colony failed. Then why didn't it wake up before? Activation required a living signal from a vanguard unit, Eden said. Until now, no one survived to reach it. Sarah touched one of the walls. Strange lights followed her fingers. Then I'm the one who opened it. Yes, Eden said softly, you are the first human to return. The chamber of seeds, they entered a great hall underground. Hundreds of glass pods lined the walls, glowing faintly with blue light. Inside each pod, shapes floated, humans sleeping peacefully. Sarah gasped. They are alive. Dormant, Eden explained, stored from the time before extinction, the last generation of pure human DNA. Sarah stepped closer to one pod. A young girl slept inside, her face calm, as if dreaming of a world that never ended. Can you wake them? Sarah whispered. With power restored, yes, but there is risk. Some systems are unstable. Sarah looked around. We don't have time to wait. The Croth will come eventually. We have to rebuild now. Eden was silent for a moment. Very well, initiating revival sequence. Awakening humanity, the floor began to hum. Lights spread across the chamber. The pods flickered one by one. Hearts began to beat again after 1,000 years. Sarah watched in awe as people slowly opened their eyes, blinking at the light. Confused, frightened but alive. One of them, a man with dark hair, sat up. Where are we? Sarah stepped forward. You're home, she said softly. You're human and the world needs you again. The man looked around. Who are you? She hesitated, then smiled. Someone who survived long enough to wake you. The shadow returned suddenly. Eden's voice turned sharp. Alert. Orbital sensors detect movement. Croth vessel inbound. Estimated contact 12 minutes. Sarah's heart dropped. Found us. Yes, the AI said. They must have tracked the escape signal. She looked at the newly awakened humans, weak, confused, barely able to stand. We can't fight them like this. Not yet, Eden said, but there is one more protocol, Project Phoenix. What's that? Sarah asked. Stored battle knowledge from Vanguard Unit 01. His combat patterns, his strategies, his code, it can be uploaded into you. Sarah froze. You mean into my mind? Yes, Eden said. If successful, you will become what he was meant to be, the bridge between human and machine, the last vanguard. She hesitated, fear trembling in her voice. Will I still be me? The AI paused. You will be more. Outside, thunder rolled through the sky. Croth ships burned through the clouds. Sarah took a deep breath and looked up at the glowing pods around her, the faces of those who would depend on her. She clenched her fists. Do it. The rebirth of the vanguard, a surge of light filled the room. Sarah screamed as blue energy poured into her body. Memories, skills, and voices merged inside her mind. Elias's memories, his courage, his pain. When the light faded, she stood tall, eyes glowing faintly blue. Eden's voice was soft. Welcome, Vanguard 02. Sarah looked at her hands, strong, steady, alive with energy. Then she raised her head toward the sound of the approaching enemy ships. Let them come, she said. This time we fight for the living. Outside, the skies of Eden Seed lit up with fire as the new human defender stepped forward, half warrior, half hope, all human. The wind screamed through the valley of Eden Seed. Above the clouds, fire burned, Kroth warships tearing through the sky like falling stars. The ground trembled as their landing pods slammed into the soil, one after another. Sarah stood on the edge of the ancient ruins, her eyes glowing faintly blue. The fusion of human and vanguard code still burned inside her veins, filling her with a strength she could barely understand. Behind her, hundreds of newly awakened humans, weak, frightened, still learning to breathe again, looked to her for answers. She turned toward them, her voice calm but strong. "Listen to me. We are the last of humanity. The Kroth took our worlds, our history, our future. But they forgot one thing." She raised her hand. Blue light flared around her fingers. They forgot what happens when a human decides to fight back. The first battle of Eden Seed, the first wave of Kroth soldiers burst through the forest. They were taller, faster, and stronger, but Sarah had something they didn't: purpose. "Stay behind me," she shouted. Her armor came alive, glowing with the same energy that once powered Elias. The ground beneath her feet cracked as she leapt forward, landing between the trees. Her weapon, forged from the outpost's last fragments, shimmered into a long, bright blade. She swung once, 3 Kroth fell. Sparks filled the air. Eden's voice echoed through her helmet. "Power reserves at 68%, multiple hostiles detected." "I see them," Sarah said. "Let them come." The Kroth screamed and charged. She met them head-on, faster, stronger, every move guided by both instinct and memory. Elias's combat code merged with her human determination, forming something unstoppable. Behind her, the newly awakened humans began firing makeshift rifles built from the ruins. Their aim was clumsy, but their courage was real. For the first time in centuries, humans were fighting as one. The memory within between the chaos, Sarah heard a voice in her mind, familiar, warm, calm. "You're doing fine, soldier." Her heart skipped. "Elias." The voice laughed softly. "I told you I wouldn't fail again. Part of me is still in there. You didn't think I'd miss the fun, did you?" Sarah smiled even as she fought. "Then let's end this together. That's the plan." She could feel him guiding her movements, the perfect harmony of human will and ancient precision. Every strike, every dodge, every spark of light was part of something bigger, humanity reborn. The sky burns, the Kroth warships opened fire. Beams of red plasma ripped through the forest, setting the trees ablaze. The ground turned to molten glass. "Eden," Sarah shouted. "We need air support." "Understood," the AI replied. "Activating planetary defenses." High above, massive metal spires hidden beneath the soil awakened. They rose from the ground like giants, glowing blue. Energy cannons fired into the sky, tearing through the enemy fleet. Kroth ships exploded one after another, raining fire across the mountains. The battle turned into a storm of light and thunder. Sarah looked up, her face lit by the glow of burning stars. "That's for Ardent," she whispered. Hope rising, the humans rallied behind her. A woman picked up a fallen weapon and joined the fight. A young man shouted for Earth. Even though he had never seen it, they fought with desperation and with belief. Sarah realized this was humanity's true strength, not power, not machines, but the will to keep going when everything said stop. "Eden," she said, "broadcast this, all frequencies." The AI responded, "Message ready." Sarah lifted her voice, letting it echo across the stars. "To every world that still listens, to every survivor hiding in the dark, humanity is alive. We are fighting back. You are not alone." The message spread through the void, bouncing off satellites, echoing through debris fields, reaching corners of space where human voices hadn't been heard in centuries. The last stand, but the Kroth weren't finished. Their flagship descended through the clouds, massive and dark as a mountain. A single voice echoed from it, mechanical, ancient, filled with hate. "Human error detected. Elimination required." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Then come try." The flagship fired a beam straight at her. She raised her hand and the light met her palm. The ground exploded, dust and energy swirling around her. When the smoke cleared, she was still standing, her armor cracked but glowing brighter than ever. Eden's voice whispered in her ear, energy overload. You can't hold it much longer. I don't need to, Sarah said. Just enough. She charged. The world seemed to slow. Her blade burned white as she leapt, slicing through the beam, through the clouds, through the heart of the enemy ship. A burst of light filled the sky, the explosion so bright it turned night into day. The dawn, when the fire cleared, the flagship was gone. The remaining Kroth ships scattered, their formations broken. Silence followed, the kind that comes only after victory. Sarah fell to her knees, breathing hard, her armor flickered. The AI's voice spoke softly. Mission complete, enemy retreat confirmed. She looked up at the sunrise. For the first time, the light felt warm. The surviving humans gathered around her. One of them whispered, "We won." Sarah smiled faintly. "No, we survived. That's how humans win." The legacy of fire. Later, when the battlefields cooled, Sarah stood atop a hill overlooking the valley. Eden's hologram appeared beside her, a shimmering figure made of light. "What now?" she asked. "Now," said Eden, "we rebuild. And the Kroth, they will come again, but so will we." Sarah looked toward the horizon where the new sun rose over a reborn world. She could still hear Elias's voice in her mind, fading but proud. "Told you, Sarah, humanity never dies easy." She smiled softly. "Rest now, old soldier. I'll take it from here." The wind carried her words into the sky. Above, the stars glimmered faintly, each one a reminder of who humans once were and who they would be again. Because this time, humanity didn't just survive. It returned with fire. Fire. End of series. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to become part of this story. This is born of two worlds where reality ends and imagination begins.